Lots of you have been asking me to cover Resident Evil games ever since I started this show, with these suggestions running the gamut from Resident Evil Gaiden, Operation Raccoon City, and oh, I haven't forgotten about you, Umbrella Corps. But there's one particular title that stands above the rest in terms of fan outcry. The game that was too big to be contained to Spain, Africa, or even Terra Grigia. The game that needed a 600 employee strong workforce, cost more money than any other Capcom published title before it, and have the distinction of being the most divisive entry in the franchise. This, of course, is
Resident Evil 6.
And that is the key word, divisive, because make no mistake, Resident Evil 6 has its fans, and looking back on it nowadays, many people have come to appreciate its, eccentricities. Critically, it also holds a spectacularly average Metacritic average, which plays right in line with the general zeitgeist around the game. Oh, but it was a huge sales disaster though. Capcom lost like $1 billion bison on it, right? No, that's not true either. Resident Evil 6 is indeed one of, if not the most interesting game in the long-running series. Well, aside from GBA RE2, of course. Ugh, man, that looks so fucking good! All this to say, we are not here to discuss whether RE6 is the worstiest game of all time. I mean, you can do that in the comments if you must. But rather find out the who, the why, and the what the hell happened. It's 2009, and Resident Evil 5 is a certified blockbuster that busted the shit out of said blocks. It was Capcom's highest selling single title for almost 10 years, until Rathalos and friends took that crown from it. Now, the lesson that Capcom learned from that success was, well, we put 1,000 more explosions and way more set pieces in co-op in RE5, and it sold better than the last one, so let's do that again? What they wound up doing was making an action movie so bombastic and over the top that it makes Michael Bay films look like Downton fucking Abbey. What's that? I'm exaggerating? Okay, well, here's an exploding barrel in RE5. And here's RE6. The director of this insanity was Ichiro Sasaki, who previously helmed both Outbreak titles on the PS2, which, when compared to other mainline Resident Evils, are distinctly smaller scale. But it's his last game, right before helming the globe-trotting horror venture, which was RE6, that is far more interesting. Zack and Wiki, or as most mainstream gamers have come to know it as, Zack and the Wikipedia? I don't know, it's that thing I didn't buy because I'm a Philistine. Now, I love me some ZW, but I don't think it's a project that adequately prepared Sasaki for the immense task he was about to take on. But why was he chosen to begin with? Well, unfortunately, experienced directors were slim pickings at Capcom in this time frame. Itsuno was busy with Dragon's Dogma, and Mikami's hands were full with being bitter, and of course not even working there. To hopefully guide Sasaki was Resident Evil shepherd Hiroyuki Kobayashi, whose claim to fame was producing just about everything, and it's with him where we'll start our journey to see just how RE6 started to fall so hilariously off the rails. One of our original goals was to create a horror game, of course, but we wanted to create what we're calling horror entertainment. Stop right there! Like I said in our Brink episode, game devs, please refrain from using terms like genre breaker and blank killer. So with that, let's add horror entertainment to the list. Alright, there we go, let's continue. We realize that there's a segment of the population out there that likes entertainment, but not necessarily horror. They're put off by horror, so how can we combine the two in a way that would bring in people who usually have an aversion to horror-related things? How could we bring them in and allow them to enjoy it? This was the first goal of the game, red flags are waving. And I know that when I explain it like that, it seems like those ideas are contradictory, and that it would be hard to achieve something like that, and I don't necessarily disagree, which is a sign you shouldn't do it. For those that are maybe not familiar or need a refresher, RE4 was a more action-orientated push for the series. RE5 mixed in even more spicy action and the addition of co-op, and RE6 offered 4 completely separate campaigns, each with their own gameplay style and tone, which was them trying to appeal to absolutely everyone. But when you attempt to do that, you're not actually appealing to anyone at all. This is where the divisiveness of 6 comes into play, because Capcom wanted/needed for not to only bust blocks, but to absolutely obliterate them. Truth be told, in terms of other franchises, Capcom lacked many big hits during the 7th generation, outside a few exceptions, so a lot was riding on the success of the Resident Evil team's gamble to appeal to those people who didn't really like Resident Evil. Does that sound familiar at all? So hey, did you kinda like RE4 or 5? Play Leon's campaign. He's cooler than ever and not a dork like he was in the past.
I see you don't have a lifeguard here at your beach.
I'm not at the beach, this is a bathtub.
Yo, you like Call of Duty? Not so much horror? Well, drunken amnesiac Chris Redfield and this guy, they got what you need. No, wait, you look like an RE3 sort of person, am I right? Well, go on a punch venture with Jake and Sherry. Like spy shit and scarves? Ada Wong's got that shit on lock. The problem here is that every campaign had contrasting tones, pacing, and gameplay styles, but without a unifying vision gluing them together. Each one individually felt a little rushed and slapped together, while taking lots of QTE and non-interactive shortcuts to pad it out. Of course, to craft all these campaigns, don't get me wrong, took a lot of hard work, as Capcom did at one point have 600 employees spread over multiple companies to get all these assets made. This was doubly impressive as they were still using their aging MT framework engine, with the ambitious design maybe outstripping its technological prowess. Logically, this also resulted in the longest game in the RE franchise by far, clocking in at around 21 hours compared to RE4's already beefy 16. Now, while some can certainly argue that it offers the most proverbial bang for your buck, others call it bloated and unnecessary.
What is this?
Wow, what a mansion!
Instead of having a singular adventure paced to fit that story, it's 4 separate stories that try to converge at specific points, which is ambitious, yes, but maybe not the best expenditure of developmental resources. The whole idea of multiple campaigns was risky, and Kobayashi was well aware that fan desires sometimes clash with Capcom's intentions, and leading up to the game's launch, said as such. The way I always think of it is that if Resident Evil represents a child, then the fans and us as creators are the 2 parents. The resulting games are like the children that are born between both of us, and just like real parents, you're not always going to agree on what is best for raising that child. Now, we do always have our ear to the ground and listen to what the fans are saying, and we try to take that into account when we are making the game, but it's our job to create a new gaming experience and to offer something that's fresh and challenging. We want to make sure that what we do pleases them, but the initial reaction might not always be positive. It wasn't. While the initial trailer for RE6 set the senses ablaze, featuring tons of characters, both crusty and fresh, epic set pieces, horrendous new monsters, and what clearly seemed to be a planet-wide threat, things took a turn for the worse when Capcom released a playable demo bundled with Dragon's Dogma in that summer. Honestly, this might have been the most damaging thing to the game's reputation more than anything else, at least amongst the hardcore. Now, Capcom wasn't wrong to do this, as the demo for RE5 stoked the fires for that release all the more, but it seemed like it had the opposite effect for RE6. Displeasure almost immediately arose, with many fans and publications citing problems with the awkward camera, which was changed to be more in your face, I guess, to various other technical technical issues like screen tearing and absurdly long load times. It also gave people a window into the action focus the series was steering hard into, which survival horror fans were already a bit wary of after Resident Evil 5. In fact, the demo was so poorly received, Capcom immediately took steps to mitigate the damage by saying they were taking the feedback from the demo and will be improving the base game with it. Kobayashi's official announcement of this came only days after the demo's initial frosty reception. We've heard a lot of feedback based on the demo we released. The team is still working hard to fine-tune it. We understand that parts of the demo were not received favorably, to put it mildly. We want to make sure we could try to improve on these things: the camera angles, the tearing, and other issues. Now, this was great to hear because while many companies often say they are taking feedback into consideration, very few actually do. The character positions were changed to be on the outer edges of the screen while aiming rather than hogging up the middle portion of the screen. The HUD was now completely customizable, and even the obtrusive Call of Duty-like waypoints could be turned off. There was another unforeseen issue with this demo, however, as modders were able to mine data revealing that Ada Wong would be the fourth campaign, which hadn't been announced yet, as well as other various monster names, modes, and difficulty settings. Fans were still very hesitant when it came to Capcom and on-disc data and DLC, as the controversy that surrounded Street Fighter Cross Tekken was still fresh in people's minds, as that released just earlier in the year. This unfortunately is something we'll need to loop back on. Now, despite Capcom's assurances that fixes were coming, make no mistake, this demo hurt Resident Evil 6, especially from a longtime fan perspective. The technical shortcomings and the quadruple double downing on increased action and QTEs had many people worried, and thus the game released on October 2nd, 2012, after shifting away from the initial competition-filled November 20th release date RE6 touted in its debut trailer. Again, to Capcom's credit, the main game indeed was improved from what the demo had offered months earlier. However, the issues we outlined before about the game's bloated, hedonistic campaigns, its increased action focus, and John Woo shooting mechanics were not things that could have changed when it was so late in development. These were the fundamental pillars that resulted in that astonishingly average Metascore. The director, Ichiro Sasaki, on the eve of launch even stated how he was nervous about the game's length, fearing some players wouldn't even bother finishing it. Yes, I'm just a little worried about that. However, because of that, we have developed this new service that ties into Resident Evil 6 called RE.net. We hope this service will really motivate people to keep playing the game. It's for you and your friends. It will help keep all of you connected and looking forward to clearing the game. Hopefully, it will spur people to continue playing and make it to the end. What? Oh, sorry, I was just checking to see what RE.net even was. I completely forgot about this. Anyway, things unfortunately don't end there. Much like Cross Tekken, on-disc DLC was found by hackers and modders in the guise of the No Hope difficulty, essentially the Leon Must Die mode for the game. It was partially on the disc, but did need additional data to function. However, map packs and Ada's co-op partner were all listed on the disc as well, just not the actual data. This still resulted in multiple articles posted across the internet that had RE6's bullshit on-disc DLC in the bylines, despite it not being 100% accurate. Regardless, this, coupled with the game's already mixed response, well, it didn't really help. Capcom, again, were going into damage control over this, saying that all of RE6's DLC needs that additional data to work, and this situation wasn't even close to all that on-disc character DLC of Cross Tekken. To further smooth things over, the first major title update to the game was 100% free, and included the No Hope difficulty, Ada's story automatically being unlocked, you needed to beat all the other campaigns to access it at launch, and various other fixes and quality of life improvements. Unfortunately, all these little measures were band-aids on bullet holes and didn't really result in their main goal, to make this the best-selling Resident Evil game of all time.
Good work.
In 2 months, RE5 sold 5 million copies back in 2009. Capcom stated in their projections earlier in 2012 that they expected RE6 to sell 7 million copies in that same time frame. This did not occur. Only 4.5 million copies of RE6 were sold in its launch period, which is pretty shocking considering the additional PS3 and Xbox consoles that were sold over that 3-year span between releases. In addition, when you take into account the project's exponentially increased budget, it went a long way into painting RE6 as a failure. Capcom even needed to explain to its shareholders why profits were down for the year and cited RE6's underperformance as the main culprit. We believe that the new challenges we tackled at the developmental stage were unable to sufficiently appeal to users. In addition, we believe that there was inadequate organizational collaboration across our entire company with regards to marketing, promotions, the creation of plans, and other activities. We will re-examine our internal operating frameworks in order to identify areas that need to be improved concerning development as well as sales and administrative operations. That's business speak for we fucked up.
Oh my god!
It's awful!
They essentially tried to make 4 games in 3 years, but still sell it for $60, and just threw an army of people at it to get it done. Coordinating all those employees across several smaller studios resulted in a shaky, unfocused title, headed up by a director that wasn't really ready for it. I mean, it took seasoned veteran Shinji Mikami a good 5 years to perfect RE4, reiterating it again and again, burning through various versions until he got what he wanted. Sasaki, though, wasn't afforded that same luxury. Capcom was attempting way too much in too little time, and resulted in this giant, expensive homunculus that didn't really know what it wanted to be. It failed to please some longtime fans, and also didn't really rake in any new ones. That's why it still lags behind RE5 in lifetime sales as of 2019. For reference, it took RE6 7 years to sell what Capcom wanted it to sell in 2 months. We've obviously seen the consumer and critical response. There were some great positives out of RE6, but it was a mixed bag, as we saw from the review scores. We probably put too much content in there. There were some comments from consumers that said it felt bloated. The Leon missions went down very well, and because we did Resident Evil Revelations, there was an outcry for us to focus on survival horror rather than be too many things to all people. You'll find where we go next will likely be more targeted at our core fan base, said former Senior Vice President of Marketing Michael Pattison. His statement at the end there also turned out to be extremely true, as both the RE2 remake and RE7 returned to a more focused horror-based experience, along with, of course, more realistic budgets and projections. Capcom has since stated that both titles have exceeded expectations and hope to build on that further with the Resident Evil 3 Nemesis remake, which releases in just a few weeks. I honestly can't wait. But when you think about it, in a weird way, this new Resident Evil renaissance we now find ourselves in might have only been possible because of RE6's muted response and sluggish sales numbers. Its quote-unquote failure showed to Capcom it wasn't exactly the best path for the series to take. We are now probably better off for it. In the continuing evolution of this legendary franchise, you could say that RE6 was a necessary evil. And with that bad pun staining your mind, if you know of any other inadvisable idiocy you'd like to avoid, let me know in the comments below, or drag your rotting corpse over to the Flophouse VIP Patreon to nominate your chosen game or movie to be our next subject. See you next time, and thanks for watching.